Okay, welcome. As we'll start letting people come into the room, but I will get started right away. So I just want to welcome you to my biweekly workshop series. Thank you for joining. I see people coming in now. I see Chris, Bailey, Kathy, thanks for joining. Tina, thank you for joining. So we have some people that come here all the time. So it's great to see people coming back. Welcome. So tonight we're going to talk about emotional eating. But before we get into that, I just want to introduce myself for those of you that don't know me. My name is Renee Roberts, and I am a registered functional nutrition and vitality coach and founder of Nourish to Live RX. And I help you sleep better and have more energy throughout the day, and I help you feel amazing. So before I introduce our lovely speaker for this evening, I just want to get some logistics out of the way. Feel free to say hi in the chat and where you're connecting from. We'd love to know. And if you have questions, feel free to type them in the chat or the Q&A box. And if you feel so inclined, you can raise your hand and I'll bring you on audio if you actually want to have a conversation with us and ask your question live. So without further ado, I will introduce our guest speaker, Melissa Rohlfs. Is that how you say your last name?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, awesome. She's going to teach us how to break free from emotional or stress eating and find freedom from food. So I'm very interested about this topic. Melissa is a certified holistic health and life coach, helping busy women break free from sugar and stress and emotional eating so they can be calm, confident, and in control around food, around sugar, and stressful situations in their bodies, in their life. She's committed to empowering women to break free from dieting, emotional eating, and self-image issues so they can ditch the diet mentality and feel empowered in their own skin. So thank you so much for joining us, Melissa. I'm happy to have you here.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I will go ahead, and now you have slides to share, so I will go ahead and pass it over to you and you can get started.
Wonderful. And I apologize in advance if the dog is barking outside of my door.
I think we all know how that works now.
If it's not a dog, it's a child. So I guess I'll take the dog. I don't know.
Awesome.
All right, let's screen share here and see if I can get this to go. Okay, can you see that okay?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Well, I am excited to be here and talk about this topic. Now a child has opened the door, so the dog might be louder. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm excited to be here and to share a little bit more about breaking free from emotional eating, because this is something that I struggled with for so long. And I'm just really excited to be here and share a little bit of my journey and things you can do today to find that freedom. So, oh my goodness, there we go. So again, my name is Melissa Rohlfs. I'm a certified holistic health and life coach from the Health Coach Institute. And I had a pretty tumultuous history with food, which sounds kind of weird because I think, food is just something that we think we have to eat, and we do. Obviously, we need to eat to live. But I didn't realize the impact of my behavior and what that was doing in terms of my relationship with food. So I withheld as a teen. I wanted to be thin enough. And then later in life, I was binging. And it was very much an all or nothing thing for me. And eventually I learned how to approach and work on the core issues around my broken relationship with food, because it wasn't really about the food. It was about so much more than that. And food was how I was handling those situations. So as a result, I felt called to go to school and help other people who are where I was. And so that's a little bit of my story. If you have questions, I'm an open book, so feel free to ask. But I get to help women break free from sugar and stress or emotional eating. I feel like the two are kind of interchangeable. And I can talk a little bit more about that in a minute, so that they can be calm, confident, and at peace. And I think, the interesting thing with emotional eating is that maybe that just sounds like a lot, right? So I used to say that I was a stress eater because I would eat when I was stressed. But then as I stepped back, I was also eating when I was happy, and I was eating when I was overwhelmed. And I really kind of used food as a coping mechanism to stuff the feelings that I didn't know how to handle. So that is a little bit of my journey. And I'm just really thankful to be where I am now and to share this information with you. So I think we know that dieting is bad, not only for the body, but also for the soul. And I think it's really interesting that if you look at the word diet, it has die in there. That's why I have that there. But then if you think about taking a lifestyle change, lifestyle approach, or really, changing your habits, that has life. It's more fulfilling. And so we have just gotten caught up as a society in believing that in order to accomplish a health, wellness, weight goal, that it all comes down to dieting. And that's really not the case. So we're going to explore that a bit more. So dieting can harm the body in a few ways. And if you have had that roller coaster ride like I have with food, I'm sure this may resonate with you. The reason you see terms like health at every size and anti-diet is because dieting is really harmful to our body and our mind. And I think that people are under the misconception that the smaller your body, the healthier it is, and the larger your body, the unhealthier it is. But that's not true at all. If we could just freedom from that mindset, that would be really helpful. Dieting can be much more harmful to your body and your overall health than if you stayed at the weight you were before you started these yo-yo diet patterns. And our bodies are amazing. They're incredible. They are designed to protect us and keep us safe and keep us healthy. And I think a lot of us just haven't been taught maybe how to work with them in that capacity, because that's the body's whole purpose, right? And if you stop and think about everything our bodies do for us, they're amazing. They're incredible. Some of us have had babies with our bodies, and they carry us everywhere we need to go every day, and they keep us alive, and we're breathing and we're functioning and we're able to talk and be here this evening. Like, there are just so many amazing things our bodies do for us. And so I think if we can really work with our bodies instead of against them, that's another big freedom piece as well. And on the size, I just want to make the comment. I bought a pair of shorts for a concert last week, and they were a size that I hadn't been in a while. And it didn't bother me at all, but just out of curiosity, I was like, I just want to compare these with the other size that I have. And they were the exact same size, but the number had been changed. So I want to encourage you not to get caught up or hung up on numbers, because they really aren't a very accurate reflection of much of anything. So I think, that's another thing we can do, is we feel like we need to be a certain number on the scale, or we need to be a certain size, or we need to look a certain way. And, maybe just embrace how you feel and really kind of honoring and nourishing your body. I've just taken us off on a tangent. I'm going to get back on track now, but I felt like that was important to say. So imagine never dieting again and living in food freedom. I don't know about you, but I love that. And I think, if we think about food freedom, that might seem really kind of foreign. That might seem kind of like something that's not heard of, because again, I think we are bombarded with the messaging that in order to change or reach a goal, we have to either withhold, or we have to cut out food groups, or we have to exercise like crazy people. And we just haven't really been taught how to listen to and honor our bodies. And that's where I love, the magic comes in, because you're really learning how to listen to and honor and really work with your body instead of against it. And so I think for me, that's what food freedom is. It's knowing which foods work for you, which foods give you energy, which foods deplete your energy, which foods just really make you feel great. And it's going to be different for all of us, because we're not one size fits all, and what works for one doesn't work for all. So it's really just learning and tapping into what your body needs and how to respect and honor that. So many diets lead to weight gain. And, if you are someone who has done, diet after diet, there's so many out there. I could probably list off like 20 from the time I was in high school, one for like every year, probably 25 actually. And if you're doing that every year, if you're trying the newest diet, you can actually gain weight rather than losing it, which is, why most people diet, is to lose weight. It's actually doing the opposite effect. And I think that many people find that they gain even more weight than when they started due to the changes in metabolism and digestion that are caused by restricting. So that's a fact that I don't think the diet industry is very forthcoming with. And I love that food is amazing, right? It's meant to be and can be a source of joy. It can be a source of nourishment. And it doesn't have to be associated with the stress and the restriction and the dieting. A lot of women I work with are just tired of trying to figure out, what to eat and what am I going to serve my family and what am I going to have for lunch and how much this, and just it's exhausting. Like we have, so many things in our lives and just a very, a limited amount of space in our brain. I hate for it to be consumed with stressing about food and just the restriction and the dieting. And we don't want that for you. We want you to be free and not have to worry about that. So how do we find freedom? Like, let's go ahead and dive into that, because I think that's really important. And these are the things that you can walk away with tonight. So let go of the rules, which again is probably countercultural from the diet industry. So really start honoring your hunger, trusting your body, and really eating to fuel and nourish your body. I love that mindset of eating to fuel and nourish rather than to stuff like I used to do, or numb or escape or feel something. But really, if we can kind of shift our mindset a little bit and really think about eating as fueling and nourishment, that can change things for us pretty quickly. Instead of focusing on restriction, focus on listening to and honoring your body. And that might be something that's new for you. It was certainly new for me, because I think we get, programmed, if you will, to eat at certain times. So for example, maybe in your home, you always ate lunch at noon. So you inevitably eat lunch at noon, even if you're hungry at 11 or 11:30. And so letting go of those time rules is a big thing too. When you can really tap into your body, and when it's hungry, feed it, regardless of what time it says on the clock. Stop stressing about calories and fats. So if you just stop and think, and I talked about this a few minutes ago, about how much time you spend thinking about food, researching, different plans, trying to plan out your meals, and the stress that comes with that, for me, that would lead, to being fearful of, oh my gosh, I'm going to be hungry. So then I would pack all of this food and have all of this food in the car. And then I felt like I had to eat it. And that was stressful. So we don't want you to be in that place, because it does create stress, when we're thinking about fear of being hungry down the road, or, maybe the binge and restrict cycle that I alluded to earlier, and even an obsession with how you look. And again, that's not what we want. We want to be in that place of freedom where we're loving our body, we're nourishing our body, we're honoring our body, and we're just really thankful and accepting our bodies for everything they do for us, because they are pretty amazing if you stop and think about it. So what is the first thing that we can do to find that food freedom? Well, the first thing we can do is to make peace with food, and, really make peace with food and keep your thoughts neutral rather than categorizing things as good or bad. I think that we tend to do that a lot, especially if you have been somebody who's dieted a lot in the past, like myself. We tend to view this food is good or this food is bad, and this is healthy and this is unhealthy. But let's just cut that out. Let's just say that food is neutral. It's neither good or bad. It's not healthy or unhealthy. It is just a thing, okay? And we really want to see how it makes us feel. And that's going to give us more of an indicator as to how it works for us. Because kale, for example, is considered a really healthy food, but some people are intolerant to it. So just because it's really healthy doesn't mean it's really healthy for you. So let's just cut those labels, cut those judgments around food. It's neutral. It's neither good nor bad. It just is. And I think this goes into when we indulge, we think that those indulgent foods, can be bad, but indulgent food isn't bad. It's not anything to feel guilty about, and it's not a craving that needs to be avoided. I love to say a craving can be a messenger, because oftentimes it might be an area of life that we're feeling we're missing out on. So for example, I was a really big sugar addict. I used to eat, a whole container of Oreos when I had my new baby and my 2-year-old, and I was just an exhausted, fried, burnout, overwhelmed mom. And I was using that sugar to kind of escape from the chaos of that situation. And so for me, it was a craving that I needed some peace and quiet. And so what I probably could have done once I realized that would have been to just, give myself a timeout, take a few minutes, step away, and just really honor that craving instead of shoving the Oreos in my mouth. Because it really can be a messenger to something that we need. But I think part of what we need to do is we need to practice pausing and really listening to what's going on inside, because no food or ingredient is necessarily bad for you. Now, if you're allergic to it or intolerant, that can be another story. Now my cat is batting at the door. It's a zoo here, my friends. It's a zoo. So it's okay to enjoy. And I want you to have permission to enjoy foods that you feel like eating without shame or regret, because that shame and regret isn't freedom, that's bondage. And we want to be over here where we have the freedom and we are, enjoying the food, we're eating it without those negative emotions that go with it sometimes. There's really not anything to fear, which can be another mindset shift. If you, have done a lot of diets in the past, or you have maybe some fears around food or weight or body image like I used to. And I really encourage you to challenge your perceptions and empower yourself with information. That isn't bad. But if you, are like me and you grew up with the snack wells craze and the Olestra chips when they were taking fat out of everything, that gave us the message that that was bad. Well, fat isn't actually bad because we need it for healthy brains. And too little may impact our memory, brain development, and brain function. And I don't know about you guys, but I want my brain to be fully functioning. I want to be operating on all levels, not only because of my zoo, but because of my kids. So I feel like I need all that brain power. And fat is also metabolically active. So too much can upset hormone balance. So again, it's really important to listen to your body and identify that sweet spot for you, which is going to be different from everybody around you. So just, tune in and listen to your body. I love carbohydrates. I'm a big carbohydrate person because they are the main energy source for your body, and they have gotten a very bad rap, and that makes me very sad for the carbs. It's kind of like Monday. Monday has gotten a bad rap. Well, I think we should bring back carbs and Mondays as good things. Complex carbs are going to help maintain blood sugar balance, which is really important. I don't know how much you know about blood sugar, but when we ride that blood sugar roller coaster, it impacts our moods, our energy. I did that a lot when I was, hadn't started my health journey yet. So I resonate with that all too well. But you want to make sure that you are eating complex carbs because they're going to help that blood sugar stay balanced. It's going to help your moods. It's going to help your energy. And they're just a really great source of energy for your body. So simple carbs like sugars and treats and those sorts of things, they're going to give you quick energy, but they're going to give you a big blood sugar dip after the energy is used. And that's where we ride that blood sugar roller coaster. And moods are all over the place. Energy is low. You might feel a little shaky, a little queasy, a little irritable. Those are all signs of low blood sugar. So you don't have to be diabetic to have low blood sugar. So the second step, and I know I've talked about this a little bit, is listen to your body. And this is really, really powerful. And I think that when you begin to eat more intuitively, you might become more mindful of hunger and fullness cues. You might become aware of what does it feel like to be hungry? What does your body say to you when it's hungry? Does your stomach growl? Do you feel a little bit queasy? Do you feel lightheaded? What does your body say to you when it's hungry? And again, that's going to be different because we're not one size fits all. And how does that feeling differ from thirst? Because a lot of times we think we're hungry and we may actually be dehydrated. We may actually need some hydration. So tune into how the feeling of hunger differs from the feeling of thirst. And then what does it feel like to be 80% full? I don't know about you guys, but there are certain restaurants I can go to where I just eat all the chips and salsa, and by the time the meal comes out, I'm stuffed. And that is not like, by the time it's all said and done, I'm 100% full and 80% full. So not 80%. So we really want to focus on being 80% full, where you feel comfortable, you feel satisfied, you just feel good, right? You don't have to unbutton your pants. You don't have to, whip out the elastic pants like sometimes you do on Thanksgiving or whatnot, but you just feel comfortably full and satisfied. So enjoy the process, because this can be really beautiful and it can really be transformative, and it can really, I think, show you a lot about yourself and other areas of your life. The act of eating in and of itself can be nourishing or it can be stressful. A lot of this has to do with the pace at which we eat. So I always encourage people to slow down when they eat. Eat with others or people that you enjoy. If you are someone who maybe lives by yourself, don't eat in front of the TV. I think it's really easy to mindlessly eat when we're in front of a screen, whether it's a TV or a computer or a phone. We're just not in tune with our food and our body and how that's affecting us. So I always encourage people to eat with people or eat by yourself, but just really kind of be present with your food. Chewing is super important. Obviously, our stomach doesn't have teeth, so chewing is going to slow the process and support digestion. So again, stomach doesn't have teeth. Enjoy the look of your meal, take in the smells of your meal, and savor not only the taste of the food, but also the texture of your food. Eating can be a really sensory experience. We have the look of the food, the smell, the taste, how it, is looking on the plate. And you could really get fun and creative if you wanted to. So just have fun with it and enjoy the process. The third step is nourish without food. And I think this is really important because a lot of times if we are in a situation where we have a habit or a behavior that we're trying to change and we take something away, we've created a vacuum. And anytime we create a vacuum, what do we tend to do? We tend to fill it. So my encouragement is to nourish without food. Find some other things that you can do if you're feeling stressed or tired or whatever the emotion is when you're wanting to reach for the chips or the cookies or whatever your go-to is. Let's find some things that we can nourish without that food if we're not physically hungry. So again, a lot of people are eating for comfort or because they're bored. I think over the last year and a half, there's been an increase in this just based on what I'm seeing on social media. So some good questions you can ask if you find yourself in this place is, what am I really hungry for? And sometimes it may very well be food, and that's awesome. If you are really hungry for food, then absolutely have at it. But if you're hungry for something else, like comfort or connection or control or self-care, let's find something else that we can fill that bucket with. Because you may have a need to fill emptiness or a desire for more sweetness or adventure or spice in your life. And I have cheese and crackers there because I worked with a woman once, and she did not identify as an emotional or stress eater at all. However, during our time together, one thing she said was, I really am craving cheese and crackers, and I don't like cheese and crackers. And I just felt myself feeling this way. And so I just ate a whole bunch of cheese and crackers. So we, did some digging and asked some questions and discovered that for her, when she was a child, cheese and crackers were something that she would have at family gatherings. And it was a very happy, peaceful time in her life. The cheese and crackers really kind of symbolized, that happy time, that peaceful feeling, that joy. And she wasn't having a lot of that in her life. And so what she was doing, you guys, is when she wasn't feeling that in her life right now, she was going to the cheese and crackers to look for that feeling. And I think that's just such a powerful story of the impact that food has on our emotions. Because if you stop and think about it for a minute, when you're not feeling well or when you're sad, there are probably foods that you default to as your comfort food. And I would encourage you to dig a little bit deeper on that and see if you can figure out why that's a comfort food for you. Is it something from your childhood? Is it something that someone made you that, really made you feel amazing? But a lot of times there is an emotional attachment or connection. And if we can figure that out, that can be really powerful and transformative. So I discovered with myself, and this was even just like a year ago, when I was a little girl, my grandparents would have these coffee candies from Brock's. I don't know if you guys ever had them, but I love them. They were just amazing. They were sweet. And that's why I like my coffee, my decaf coffee, with a splash of creamer at night because it tastes like that candy to me and it reminds me of my grandparents. So I think if you can just sit and ask yourself, what is the food that I go for and what does it symbolize or what memories come up? I think that attachment will become pretty clear for you if that resonates as well. So step number 4 is to respect your body. And this is really exciting when people do this, because again, dieting and weight loss usually go together. And it's frustrating to me because I feel like there is so much more than just food when it comes to weight loss. And I think we've just been, taught again that if you want to lose weight, you need to restrict, you need to overexercise, and you do these things. But really, there's so much more to it. So intuitive eating, which, we're talking about mindful eating, breaking free from the stress eating, it may or may not result in weight loss, but it will result in balance. And that's going to carry over into other areas of your life. And that's what I think is so exciting and so freeing is when you, kind of conquer this tent peg, if you will, then you can conquer the next one and the next one and the next one. And there's this ripple effect in your life. So if you do want to lose weight and you're trying to lose weight, just remember it's yours, it's for you, it's about you, it's not about anybody else. If you have people who are, maybe getting on you about your weight, they likely mean well, but your why has to be your own and your reason for doing it has to be your own. And I would encourage you to challenge ideas about ideal weight and, maybe look at things through a lens of health. What is a healthy weight for my body type, my height, my age, my activity level? Those are all really important factors and they're different for all of us. So I think, again, we are standing in the checkout lane at the grocery store and we see the magazine covers and that kind of tells us, oh, well, I should look like that because she's my age. No, we're all different. And I think the freedom is really in finding your authentic self and who you're made to be and how your body is made and really showing up as that instead of holding this comparison to something that was probably photoshopped, if we're really honest. So the 5th step is movement. And I'm a big proponent of safe movement, doing something you enjoy. Movement prevents stagnation. And if you keep your life more fluid and enjoy the freedom that comes with less rigid thinking and fewer rules, that's also liberating, right? So move your bodies in a way that you enjoy. Do it for fun and for health. And I find that if you are moving in a way that you enjoy, you're more likely to do it because it's not going to feel like torture. It's not going to be, oh, I have to. It's going to be, oh, I get to because it makes me feel great and I have more energy and whatever that looks like for you. But just find something you enjoy doing. And again, move your mind, challenge your perceptions, learn, explore, and experience other ways to nourish yourself. And for you, movement might be one, and that would be great. And if not, that's okay too. I love to encourage people to journal. Part of the process of intuitive eating and natural weight balancing is really tapping into yourself and those feelings and those emotions. And again, for me, the reason that I was eating was because I was trying to stuff that. But when I had a safe place where I could share that and I could journal that and I could get it out, that was a game changer. So use a journal to jot down your feelings. You can even write down how foods make you feel. You can write down, you have more energy when you eat these foods. My favorite people to eat with are XYZ. And you may even get to a point where you start to just journal things that come up during the day that are upsetting you instead of, trying to push them down and deal with them later. If you can kind of work through them in the moment, I think that'll help. It's definitely helped me as a mom with kids who are always coming at me. If I can work through my emotions and solve, whatever's bothering me before they come to me, I'm much more pleasant. So let's talk about self-care for deeper nourishment, because that's really what this is about. This is about self-care. It's about nourishing yourself holistically, body, mind, and soul, not just the physical, but all of the parts of us, because we're whole beings. So really work on ways to rebuild your relationship with yourself. And there are a lot of really great ways to do this. I love to walk to help me reconnect to my body. I also like to just sit outside and breathe in the fresh air. I feel that that's really a great way to help me connect too. Focus on gratitude. And you could start to do this daily. And it might sound corny or cheesy, but if you can keep a gratitude journal, and it can even be a list on your phone, of 3 things you're grateful for about your body, that can make a world of difference. Because I think so many times we look in the mirror and maybe we focus on what we don't like or what we don't see or what we should look like or what happened from the last time we looked in the mirror, and we can kind of beat ourselves up. But if we're focusing on the positive and what we're grateful for, that really shifts our perspective. And that's a really big deal as well. So work through any anxiety or stress that you have in your relationship with food. And again, slowing down and practicing mindfulness is amazing for this. And I encourage you to schedule more me time. I think a lot of times we can get so busy taking care of everybody and everything around us. There's so many fires to put out, but you can really reconnect with yourself, and that will indirectly heal your relationship with food. So even just 10 to 30 minutes a day, and do something for yourself. Maybe it's, going for a walk. Maybe it's cooking something. Maybe it's reading. Maybe it's going up and locking yourself in the bathroom if you need a quiet moment. I get that. So just whatever you need to do for yourself. And then make a commitment to give up dieting, because dieting does not work. And as we talked about earlier, it does more harm than good. So these are just some quotes from people that I've worked with, and it's always fun to hear what they have to say. They've learned how to listen to and honor their bodies. I think that's really powerful, because I think maybe sometimes we know how to listen to our bodies, especially if we're not feeling well. But I think that honoring is another piece. So when you can connect the two, that's really freeing. They've learned how to handle and navigate the unknowns in life. They feel like they have a different determination now, that they can do hard things. They feel like their insides match their outsides. And I put the word donuts there because this woman was so sweet. She came to me and she was like, I just love donuts. I can't give them up. And I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to give them up. Totally okay. As long as, you feel good and they are setting okay with you, and we figure out why you're going towards them. And she discovered that she had her family coming into town, and they brought donuts and cake and all these things. And she was like, you know what? I didn't want a donut, so I didn't have one. And I was like, wow, that's really powerful. What changed? And she's like, well, I had worked through my feelings. I had worked through my emotions. I discovered why I was turning to the donuts, and I found other ways to do that. So I had one the last day they were here just for fun and to celebrate, but I normally would have eaten 6 or 7 in one sitting. And today I had one over the course of their 3-day visit. So that's really exciting and encouraging to hear too. And then finally, I'm becoming calm and confident in who I need to be. And I think that's what we all want. Like, we want to feel calm. We want to feel confident. We want to feel comfortable and empowered in our own skin. And that's what we do when we learn to listen to our body. And for me, that was a game changer. Like, that helped me to become confident, because I was like, oh, that's what that means. And this is how I respond. And it helped me feel more in control of myself, if that makes sense. Because I think so many times we think, oh, well, I should feel this way or that way. And the shoulds, no. Focus on you and what your body and what your gut is saying, because that's where the power is. So that's exciting. And then finally, I want to share Christy with you. She is the sweetest. She posted this on social media, and she talked about how I helped her heal in so many ways, physically and mentally. She hit her weight loss goal, which is exciting. But I loved her hashtags, because I feel like that's really powerful. Food heals and do the work. And I helped her change her life, not just her diet. And I think that's powerful, because I think a lot of times we will eat emotionally or go for things because there's something in life that maybe is a little bit off kilter, it's off balance, it's not what we want it to be. And so we'll reach for the food to kind of numb or escape or soothe. But I think if we can really address what that cause is and find a different, mechanism to handle it, that's where the freedom is. So I just wanted to share that with you. And then I think I'm on my last slide here. If you're ready to find freedom, I would love to chat with you. I'd love to, offer you a complimentary Finding Freedom coffee chat, where we can talk about, maybe some of your story resonates with my story, and I can help you come up with a way to find that freedom. Because I really want nothing more than for people to be free and to know how to listen to and honor and respect their bodies and the way that they're made and their uniqueness, because we're all different. And this one size fits all mentality is just, it breaks my heart, because it feels like comparison. It feels like a lot of expectations, a lot of shoulds, and that just takes up too much brain space, my friend. So if you guys have any questions, I would love to answer them. I'm done with my slides right now, so I'll turn off the screen share here, if I can figure it out. There we go. Awesome.
There you go. Yeah, so if anybody has questions, feel free to type them in the chat or the Q&A box, or comments if you're on Facebook. And yeah, that was really good. I was taking notes and wrote down some things. It's, a lot of stuff resonated with me. I've never really been an emotional or stress eater per se. I probably tend to go more towards the wine.
Okay.
if I'm stressed or, whatever. But, it is kind of funny too. The one thing that I do, kind of came out of this as well is the whole dieting thing. Yes, I totally believe that, it is bad for you. It can do more harm than good, like what you said. But another thing too is our bodies change over time. So what you may not have been able to eat before, you may be able to eat again. And that's one thing I've learned personally, because I have a lot of food. Well, I had a lot of food intolerances and I don't as much anymore. And that's when I worked with a naturopath, that's what she told me. She's like, this may not be long-term. It may actually just be temporary. So it's always good to, to check and recheck and say, oh, I was not able to eat this before, but maybe I can now. So I think that's something worth noting. And I'm totally with you on the carbs as well. Carbs are the new fat. That's what I'm saying. It's like, oh my God, no, but we need carbs. We so need carbs. But yeah. Oh, Tina says, I love the creative foods in the slides. Yes. I was thinking that too. Some of the food looks so good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looked really good. Some of those foods. I was like, oh, is that a charcuterie board? I couldn't tell. I'm like, is there cheese on that too? I don't know. It looked really good.
Because I think too, Renee, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I think a lot of times we think, oh, if we're going to, make a lifestyle change, or we're going to change our habits around food, it has to be boring and bland and deprivation. And that's not the case. Like it's not that way, and it doesn't have to be that way. And if it's that way, then I'm really sorry, because that's just not how it was designed.
Yeah, exactly. So I totally get that. Love it. Love the thing. And it's funny. You did talk about the prompt, and I love doing the journal prompt with people, because if you are like, you're like, especially now with COVID, right? You're sitting either near the kitchen or something, and you want to go grab something out of the kitchen or out of the refrigerator or the pantry. And, I always tell people that I work with, it's like, okay, are you really hungry? Ask yourself those questions that you brought up. It's like, what am I feeling right now? And, what am I really wanting to nourish my body with? Is it really food? And a lot of times it's not. So I totally get that, because I will do that. If I'm bored, I'm like, I'll walk into the kitchen and see what's there. So
why do we default to that though? Isn't that funny? Because I did the same thing. Like after I became, a mom who was home instead of working all day, I would just graze. And I'm like, what is that about? Like, why are we, I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah. So Tina's asking, do you think our Canadian food group needs to change with the times? I think, Canadian and American food groups, I think it does, for sure. I don't know what you think, Melissa, but I totally believe that I think they do, but I don't know if they do it as often as they should. I don't know. But I mean, I think our bodies are always basic. They always need the basic macros, fats, carbs, protein. I mean, I think they always need that. And I think it's an individual basis personally, whether or not how you shift those macros, and if they're equal or more protein or more carbs or more fat. That's me personally. I don't know what your thought is.
Yeah, I agree. And our bodies are always changing. So I think the more in tune you are with your body and what it's saying, I think the easier it is to kind of make those shifts and figure out what it's saying and what it needs.
Yeah. And I think too, part of that change has to be over the years. We don't have as much nutrients in our vegetables, as we did before back in the day, because of just the way things are grown. So you have to consider that as well. So it's hard to say. There's so many different factors.
There's a ton of factors, and they're changing over time too.
Yeah, yeah. Chris is saying my issue tends to be understanding meal portioning and what real intake should be and what that looks like on a something. I don't know
Like,
if he's still typing, but
that's
uh,
plate.
yeah. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Do you have a thought? Do you want to go first?
Well, I do, because I've some of the courses that I've taken, I'm not big on calorie counting, but portion control can be a thing. And one of the things that I learned in one of my nutrition courses is hand portions. Hand portions can work really well if you can figure out what the hand portions should be for you in particular, because everybody's going to be different. So that's an easy way to do it. Proteins are usually the palm, fruits and vegetables are like a full handful, fats are your thumb. So if you can figure that out and understand what you need per meal and per day, that helps. That's the way I've kind of tackled that.
Well, and that's beautiful, because if you go out, to eat somewhere, you go to somebody's house, you're not like whipping out your measuring cups from your purse and being like, oh, hold on, like it's a good, visual, and you've always got your hand with you, hopefully. So I think that's good. And I think too, like, just also eating to your body's fullness is probably, more important. And I think if you are getting the right nourishment, like Renee was saying, with the different food groups and the nourishment, that's going to respond differently than if you ate a bunch of chips and sugary food. You're not going to feel satiated because you didn't eat a meal and your body didn't get what it needed. So I think the hand trick is great, combining that with your body's, feeling of fullness. That can be really powerful.
Yeah. And some people, again, everybody's different, because, I find personally for me, if I'm hungry all the time, I'm pretty sure it's because I haven't had enough protein for the day. And protein really, really satisfies me. So, because I've gone back to vegetarian for a while and now I'm back. I go back and forth depending on what my needs are and depending on how much I'm working out as well. So makes a huge difference.
I have found too, on that point, if I don't eat enough the day before, I usually make up for it the next day. And I'm like, why am I so hungry? And then I have to stop and think, what did I eat yesterday? Oh, okay. I was, too busy and I wasn't listening to my body and I was hungry. And so it carries over in the next day. So again, I think it's different in just listening to what your body needs. That's what I've discovered about myself.
Yeah. Okay, Tina's asking, you mentioned about cravings. Does it mean your body is lacking sugar, salt, oil?
It can be. I mean, there is a really great handout that I can pass on that kind of shows, like, if your body is craving sweet, this is what it could be looking for. But I think the key is to figure out, is it that or is it something else? Because for me, it was always the other thing. It was the, not feeling satisfied or feeling overwhelmed. Like, it didn't feel like I was fulfilled in my purpose, and that would cause me to eat the sugar. And that's what I thought was a craving, but it was this bigger thing. But I think if I could share that handout, that might be helpful, because it kind of breaks down, like, if you're craving this, it's really a sign you might be deficient in this. And I don't have it memorized.
Yeah. And I totally believe that, because it could be not even that your body's craving some kind of nutrient. It could be just, it is something emotional or something spiritual. It could be any of those, right? Yeah. And it's funny because we had talked about, I was in a course this weekend and we were talking about that, and the instructor brought up something about, she always used to crave pie. And what she finally realized, it wasn't that she was craving the pie. It went back to childhood where, she finally figured out it was because, she didn't get as much attention as her brother growing up, but it took a lot to get there. But as soon as that aha moment came, she never craved pie again. So it's really interesting what our bodies do.
It's incredible, the memory of our brain and where the body holds on to things. I mean, it's just incredible. It really is. And it really, I think, is this journey of being curious and kind of asking yourself those questions, which we're not really taught to do. I mean, I never analyzed these things before. I just ate and felt like junk and thought that's what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions? We've had some good ones coming in.
Questions have been great.
Yeah, they have been. One question, is it when you, does everybody just know when they're like a stress eater or emotional eater? How does that work as far as, you know, I mean, I know that I tend to go towards wine, but does that mean I'm like, you know, an emotional or stress eater? I don't know.
Most people have no idea, and that's what's so fascinating. I feel like with what I do is because a lot of times they'll come to me because they want to lose weight, or because they are really having this out of control sweet tooth. And so through working together and, you know, asking those questions, they start to connect the dots of, oh, I do this when I feel this way, or when this is happening or this isn't happening. That's when I'm doing that. And a lot of times it goes back to childhood. My dad died when I was 2. And so part of what my mom would do is we would go to my grandparents every night to visit them. And what's the first thing we did when we got in the house? Made a beeline for the cookie drawer. So I think my mom was handling her grief of losing her husband, my dad, through eating sweets. Well, then she modeled that for me, and that's what I was taught. So I think a lot of times people aren't aware, either because it's just all they've known because it was passed down, or because they haven't maybe given themselves the time to stop and think about it. Now, I would identify as a stress eater for sure, but I didn't realize that it was emotional for me. I just thought I ate when I was stressed. But then when I stepped back, it was eating to stuff the feelings that I didn't want to deal with.
Interesting.
So I don't know if I answered you or not.
Yeah, for sure. I was just curious. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Any questions? Any more questions? And feel free to type in or raise your hand if you want to come on. Where can I know you had your website? You listed that in there. If you want to, you can. If you want, type it in the chat. But I know I'm going to send out information with the replay tomorrow to everybody that's registered. And I could put the information in the comments in Facebook as well. And yeah, I think that's it. Oh, good. Thank you. You put it in the chat. I'll copy this over to Facebook as well. And if there are no further questions, I will let everybody get back to their evening or afternoon, wherever you're calling in from. And thank you so much for joining us. This was so interesting. Loved it. Loved the slides. Loved the presentation. And thank you, everyone, for joining tonight and taking time out of your busy day. And yeah, have a great evening, everyone. And I will send out the replay if you join late or you haven't seen it. So thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone. Okay, bye.